Welcome everyone back to the Life of Now, and this is your host Greg Barth. Little does Tony Horton know, but he has made a huge impact in my life going back to 2009 when something called PX90 or P90X came about. Way before that, I asked a few questions with some other friends. What is this P90X all about? And they had nothing but great things to say, the ones that actually did it. So I dove in, being the average Joe or Greg that I was, but I came out of it. I went into it all or nothing. I came out of it 11 pounds down with no goal of losing any weight. I continued on for 3 rounds. I lost 25 pounds. I gained confidence. I went on to 7 times, and I moved on from there, and I've never looked back. So I'm crazy just as much as today's special guest. He is the creator of P90X, P90X2, P90X3, 10-minute trainer, Power 90, with some really ugly tight shorts, and the new program released back in September, P90. He's the author of several books, with the most recent being The Big Picture, 11 Laws That Will Change Your Life. Excellent book.
Thank you.
He grew up in Connecticut, grew up in Connecticut, born in Rhode Island. Got picked last when forming teams at recess and hated Phi Ed class. He moved around a lot as a kid, struggled with a speech impediment, and found himself turning to humor and eventually weightlifting as his coping mechanisms. Correct me if I'm wrong as we get through this.
Basically, the interview's over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all done.
I'm going to finish up in one more minute, and then we'll just be done, and we'll sweep the floors. He then decided to head out to sunny California and make it big. When acting didn't really turn out the way he wanted to, he turned to some miming on the street to make ends meet, lived in the same apartment for like 20 years, and when P90X hit big, as he was training other celebrities like Tom Petty, Billy Idol, and some miming that he's doing on the screen right now, Sheryl Crow, Usher, on and on and on. There's so many things that I can say about Tony Horton because, Tony, honestly, you've really impacted my life significantly. So welcome to the show, Tony Horton.
Greg, thank you for having me.
What's on?
I'm looking forward to our conversation, man.
How is it that I was able to monopolize that little part there and you weren't able to say much? How does that feel for you?
Weird. It's hard, because there's stuff always wanting to come out. The food hole is for more than one thing. It's for letting information, motivation, inspiration, education, emancipation, proclamation. No, that's too many things. But yeah,
there's a couple more in there.
That's all right. It's weird. It's weird for me to kind of hear about my life like that, but that's the bulk of it. It was a weird and hard start, but I think that's the case for a lot of people. And then, I just hated being miserable and sad and depressed and broke. And so I did a bunch of things to try to make that go away. And most of it involved eating right and exercising, which kind of gave me the foundation to build an awesome life, So
I agree with that completely. But yeah. What part of you thinks that if you don't have that struggle or something that really pushes you like that, is there motivation to be super successful with anything, or are you okay with average?
Well, I don't know, man. There's any number of circumstances that can happen in a person's life, and maybe it happens when they're a kid, like it was for me when it was a struggle. Maybe it's after a divorce or after an illness or a heart attack or a stroke or later in life. I don't know, And so everybody has a different journey, obviously. But what is a spark to get your act together so that you can make the second half of your life or the last third of your life better? I come from a place of knowing that if you eat well and exercise on a regular basis, you're going to at least be able to have the energy and enthusiasm to take bigger risks and to live outside of your comfort zone and to open up new doors and begin to see see a better route, a better taking the high road as opposed to the low road maybe before. And life is filled with choices and decisions, and we get to make it every time we sit down to a meal, and every time we wake up in the morning. How we're going to treat people, whether we're going to be patient, how we're going to perform at work, how we're going to behave with our kids. It's just constant, right? And so, and the great thing is everybody listening right now knows the difference between good outcomes and bad outcomes, and what it takes to be able to reach one of those two things. And so, that's it for me. I mean, I just didn't like being unhappy, and so I like being happy, so I find choices that make that happen.
When you came out to California, at what point were you at in your happiness? Were you still miserable as you were coming out, and you decided
No,
to take a chance?
I mean,
or?
it wasn't like my misery was constant, but I, the fact that I actually had the cojones to get in the car and come
Right.
west, there was a lot of early excitement about that.
It was a
you know?
BMW, right? I mean,
What's that?
it was a Beamer that you jumped into, a silver
No,
Beamer,
it was
brand
a
new
Ford
leather.
Taurus, actually. No, I think it was a Starsky and Hutch car, but without the red and the white stripe, whatever that car is. Ford Torino. It was a Ford Torino.
Nice.
Yeah, it was all hood and trunk. But there was but I was broke, and but I was optimistic. I was excited. And then you come out here, and oddly enough, Steven Spielberg doesn't knock on your door and give you a role in a major movie.
Really?
You got to go through the process, and you paint houses, and you do mime at the pier, and you tend bar, and you wait tables, and you're the assistant manager at the Oak Tree men's clothing store at the Santa Monica Mall. You're doing all these jobs that you don't love, but you got to pay the bills and feed your face, so you do them anyway. And then you have little moments of glory. I got a Lowenbrow commercial or something, and that I got some royalty checks. That was fun. And then, I started my fitness business, and I was training celebrities there for a while. And, things sort of escalated over the course of decades. I went out to California in my early 20s, and I was pretty much in debt and broke up until my early 40s. So, it didn't happen overnight.
That's overnight success there.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really one significant, even though P90X was a big spike of success, but everything really built up to that. Was there, like, you got one celebrity, the person that you were training, and then there'd be another? Maybe it would kind of more of a building process is how I see your story, or was there something just you woke up one morning and you're like, hey, P90X, and they wrote me a check?
No, I took a bodybuilding class, a weightlifting class in college, and I really liked it. It's the first time I had ever worked with a teacher that was a cool guy, and he wasn't a bonehead. You know what I mean? Who cared more about getting his picture in the paper and win in the win-loss column? And his athletes were just these tools in which to get there, and he treated them usually like a tool. So, and I was a half-baked football player. I was an okay tennis player. I was a mediocre skier. But, when I grew up, it was all team sports. So I was a pretty awful baseball player, a pretty awful basketball and football. Those were the main sports growing up. And all my teachers and mentors and coaches weren't delicate with their players. They were all these drill sergeant types, and I didn't relate to that. I just thought, Jesus, if you're going to help me out, show me how do I train? How do I condition myself? And maybe I wasn't really that receptive to it. Maybe they were better than I was, and it's all part of my lame fantasy about my past. But it just didn't, a mentor, a coach, a teacher, they have to resonate with their students, and none of them did for me. And so when I came out to California, it was the culture that really got me to change, because on the East Coast, back at URI, University of Rhode Island, and Trumbull High School, the only gyms in town were at school, and there weren't any on the corner. There weren't any, it didn't exist back in the 70s. But out in California, it did. They were everywhere, bodybuilding gyms and cardio gyms, and this is kind of pre-spinning and stuff. But, aerobics classes, and this is where the people were. This is where, cute girls were. And so I just did that because it was a great way to socialize, and it really sort of changed me aesthetically. But I wasn't really conscious of the fact that it was also changing my mental and emotional state. I just felt better more often. And so when you feel better, you want to do more. And when you want to do more, you experience, different groups of people, and it opens you up to all kinds of things. And so there was no real plan about it. It's just like, oh, wow, look at my arm. My arm looks better when I
Nice.
train. And girls like that. That's usually the reason why most guys in their early 20s exercise, especially single ones, right? So
Right. So you're picking up more of the barbells, but at one point you're like, maybe I should pick up a book as well, because that's the natural progression. That's what I've been seeing. And then it just one thing leads to another, and pretty soon you're going to a seminar. Weren't you kind of getting involved with that at some point too, with the mindset
Yeah,
stuff?
my first self-help book was Dr. Wayne Dyer's Looking Out for Number One. That was his first book. He's written dozens since, right? And I read that the summer between my junior and senior year in college, and there was so much great information in there. You know what I mean? A lot of it probably, it's dated, obviously, and it's a little bit more selfish than selfless, which he's much more selfless writer now. I mean, it was a million years ago. It was back in 74 years old. So, and then then I just got on the bandwagon with all of it. I mean, I read a lot. I read a lot of Dan Millman's books, The Warrior Athlete and other books like that, and M. Scott Peck, the road less traveled, further along the road less traveled, beyond the road less traveled. I mean,
a lot of roads. Right?
He had a lot of them. Keith Ellis's book, The Magic Lamp. And then later, Brendan Brazier's become a friend of mine. His book Thrive was, even though he's a vegan and I'm sort of a sometimes vegan, sometimes paleo, sometimes Indian, sometimes Mexican. I don't care if it's food. I'm going to put it in my face.
Or today it was Mexican, I think, wasn't it?
What's that?
No, today is Mexican, wasn't it?
Today was Indian.
Oh, Indian. Yeah, that's right.
Indian food, man. I had a couple of veggie samosas and some other really yummy stuff. Really good. So there's Brendan, and of course Chris Crowley's book. Younger Next Year, Thinner Next Year, Younger Next Year, and then John Rady Spark. So, I'm always, sometimes it's about finance, sometimes it's about relationships, sometimes it's about career building, sometimes it's about health and wellness or bodybuilding or proprioceptive fitness. I'm always looking at sources that can kind of help me. And that's even hanging out with Tom Petty and Billy Idol and these music superstars, just getting, you're there to train them, but you're feeding off of them, and there's still moves, still funny little gestures that I steal from Billy Idol, that are purely his, and people go, oh, that's weird and quirky.
Where did he get that?
Right, mate, great, right. He'd always do like this thing, and I love that.
Where's he around? I don't see his name anymore.
Billy's, he still performs, he's still touring the country, he's a Pilates guy now.
And he's older than you, right?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I remember when I used to go to his house and.
I used to listen to him all the time. Yeah.
What's that?
I used to listen to him all the time.
Moni. Yeah. White Wedding. It was fun. It was fun because these were artists that I loved, and now I'm helping them stay alive, and keeping them fit.
So were a lot of them really at a point where, how was it working with them? I'm sure there's a lot of different things that they have to deal with that the standard or average American can just throw the P90X CD in and do the workout, but you think they're celebrities, so they shouldn't really have any problems working out.
Well, a lot of them can afford experts, they got the best of the best. They got the best masseuse, they got the best trainer, they got the best accountant, they got the best roadies. That's how they're so successful. Typically they were doing it all on their own, and it wasn't like when any of them were starting out, they had their own personal trainer. But if you want to be able to sustain your career for any length of time, it's really important to surround yourself with people who can kick ass and take names. And so Tom Petty was introduced to me by a guy by the name of Harlan Goodman, who was my boss when I was a production assistant at 20th Century Fox. So I just started working out because I liked it, and then Harlan noticed, and so I started training my boss 3 days a week. And then a couple years later, he introduces me to Tom Petty. He's walking through the hall at East End Management, and Tom's walking the other way, and he's looking at Harlan, and he's like, "Wow, hey Harlan, you look great. I got a tour." Tom's from Gainesville. He'd probably hate it if he heard my impression of him, but I need Tony Horton's number. And so Tom called me and my roommate picked up the phone. It's in actually the little stories in the big picture of the book. My roommate Bob picks up and, "Hi, my name is Tom."
There it is,
buddy. Yay. Beautiful book.
Hey, who's this guy?
I don't know. It's a handsome shot. I shaved that day. But, and then Tom called me up and he hung up on it because I thought, why is Tom Petty calling me? And then he calls back and says, "I think you hung up on me. It was Tom Petty." My roommate goes, "Holy crap, dude, I think it's Tom Petty." So I went to his house and I got him in great shape for this tour. And then when people saw Tom, doing these kind of Bruce Springsteen-like sets and looking ripped and having tons of energy, the phone rang off the hook. It was Billy Idol, Tom Petty, Stephen Stills, Annie Lennox, Ewan McGregor, Usher, Stephen Stills. Did I mention Stephen?
Yeah.
Stephen was a hard case. Stevie Nicks, another one. I could write a book that thick on just celebrity training days and the craziness. Naked girls coming to the door and all kinds of stuff.
There'd probably be a lot of editing going on in that book, right?
No, a tell-all. But I'd have to wait for them all to die because I would be ostracized for life in the Hollywood community, the rock and roll community. But, you know, I mean, the one thing I got to say is everybody that I trained, they were just into it, and they were excited, and they didn't mess around. You know, they really trusted me. And so it was a big responsibility. I mean, I really had to step up my game because there was a lot at stake. You know, you know, when you're on a tour and your guy is, you know, run out of gas, it's kind of your fault. So it was an awesome ride, but you're getting up at 5:30, going to bed at 9 o'clock at night, and you're still driving a crappy car and in debt. You know what I mean? It's people think, you know, celebrity trainers, they're just as broke as everybody else, man. You know what I mean? How much are you going to charge for a workout? $2,000? Yeah. You know, I mean, it's you just can't. I mean, you know, now when I do privates, I just put out this astronomical number and people pay it, you know. But if they're going to pay that kind of bread, man, I'll spend 2 hours, 2.5 hours with them and just say, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's how you change your life. It's part workout. It's part seminar. It's part Q&A. And then, you know, and so I still offer that and I enjoy doing it, but not as much, you know, because I'm busy.
Do you think that you can have the fitness and the health foundation without being around the right people and changing your mindset? And because for me, I think they all kind of go all together. They blend together eventually.
Well, it's a whole lot harder. You know, there's a lot of people who've bought one of my programs. They get no support from their family and friends. You know, they just kind of roll their eyes and go, okay, here we go again. You're going to buy the product.
Wasn't the push-up invented already? I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you story after story. You know, there's this girl, Kathy, who was barely 5'2", weighed 210 pounds, you know, and she bought this program. She got no support from her husband. She had to get in the bus to go to work. You know what I mean? So she got up in the dark and did Power 90 3 times in a row. So that's 3 months, 3 more months, 9 months of Power 90, then did 9 months of P90X. And she lost 110 pounds. And when she started Power 90, she couldn't do a single push-up, not one, on her knees, like crashed to the floor. I watched a girl who looked like a professional rock climber do 10 chin-ups. So, you know, there are some people who have no support, no accountability through other people. They don't have any like-minded friends or family around, but just click in because they believe that it's the truth. Yeah. I mean, 6 days a week and eating right, it's going to work for everybody. It's not like I'm trying to sell you some short, quick, fast, silly
That's
diet
the ab chair, right?
Joke, right? It's, yeah, you're going to do plyo, and you're going to do push-ups, and you're going to do Pilates, you're going to do yoga, and you're going to do core and functional fitness, and you're going to stand on a ball, and it's, you know, yeah. And it's challenging. I mean, the reason why my stuff works is because most of it's skill-based. Yeah. You know, it's not repetitive, easy movements that most people can do. It's a single rep requires a lot of, you know, trial and error. And if you can turn that switch on, if you understand that it's not about being a perfectionist and that you're not attached to the outcome and that the journey is complicated and difficult at times, then you do it. But with people who have support, they do it with their family, they do it with their wives, they do it with their friends, or they have a little fit club they do in the garage. You know, that's me. I worked out this morning with Bobby Stevens from P90X, and we did shoulders and arms. If he didn't show up, I don't know if I would have blown it off, but I would have thought about it. And then it probably would have been a half-hearted routine because when I see he's curling 50s, I got to curl 50s, you know. And so there's much more. It's fun. It's a little competitive. But that's you know, if you've got that around, there's a greater likelihood you're going to get through your 90 days, and then you're going to get through the rest of your life. Because, like, I've been skiing for 5 weeks in Jackson, and then for a weekend for an event in Mammoth, and everybody around me is kicking ass, you know. So you know, it's fun to be with those kinds of people who are living large, taking charge, and having fun and exploring, you know, what their bodies can do.
Well, I remember when the first day was chest and back, and then the day 2 was plyo. And I went into it at 6 feet 190, not overweight or anything. I was soft. I wanted to tone up, you know, typical guy. But day 2, I almost vomited. I was lightheaded, but I pushed through. But by week 3, I was already down a few pounds, and that wasn't really, you know, it was shocking to me. But I kept going, and one of the things, like you were saying, I was in a Facebook group, a P90X group, way back in the day, and I met several people through there, and they were all doing it, and that was so. Then I ran into a neighbor like a year later, and he's like, "You're still." I mean, you look great. I mean, you're still doing that workout? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, how do you stay motivated? And that's one of the first times I'm like, it is kind of weird. You know, I go down to this cold basement. It's dark down there. It's early. But yet I do it, and I'm motivated to do it, and I keep doing it. Why is that? and I have created this network of people that I'm connecting with.
Well, you do it partly because it works, and when something works, you cling on so tight because it's so rare that things actually are what they appear to be. Most people who buy into anything, whether it be a gym membership or a personal trainer or a diet program, are often disappointed. People aren't disappointed doing my stuff, but they have to really step it up. So obviously it's not for everybody. Not everybody's willing to work that hard for that long for the rest of their lives. I mean, that's what I'm asking you to do. But, the rewards are endless. When it comes to your attitude and your ability to want to try things, and or your desire to want to try things, and your ability to be able to accomplish things that maybe you never did in your teens or 20s or 30s. That's very exciting for people, and that's what it's all about. It's really about that. It's about what you can do, how you feel, your health and wellness, and not so much about your reflection in the mirror and the tape measure and the scale, which is usually how companies who are selling an idea sell it, right? It's all about our ego. It's all about how we hope to look in the future, but we can't control those things, I mean, so why not focus on the things you can control? I work out today. I'm better today. I don't. I'm not. Hello. No rocket science there. It's just, and there are very few universal truths. I mean, you got to breathe, you got to drink water, you got to eat meals, you got to get sleep, you got to have a shelter over your head. This is how people survive. So you can do the whole survival thing, yippee-yi-yay, and then they bury you, and then and then maybe you'll be reincarnated into something better, maybe not. But while you're here, you might as well kick some ass, and it's a short ride. I'm 56. Holy cow, how'd that happen? But it did. And so there's things that you can control, and the universal truth is, if you eat right and exercise some way or another, everything improves. Everything, not just your chest or your arms or your posture or your ability to digest food. Everything improves physically, mentally, emotionally. Like, holy smokes. And who controls those two things? Me.
Right.
What do I put in my food hole? I control that. These are my hands. That's my mouth. What am I going to do? And there's, it's plyo. Okay, I want to do that like I want to, jump on a bunch of shard glass. But I also understand that the outcome is going to be so that I can ski like a psycho. You know what I mean? Right. At 56, I can ski circles around people half my age going down the mountain like this, And so that's why I make these choices. It's not easy. It's, sometimes, do I want a big old chocolate chip cookie? Sometimes, sure, I eat it. Do I blow off workouts? Sometimes, sure. You know what I mean? But it's about being consistent more often. And if you can do that, you control that, well, the sky's the limit, man.
Tell me why I lost hair along the way. That wasn't part of the program, was it?
No,
I went into furry guy. Came out pretty.
You blame that on your grandfather, dude. Your grandfather had
that wasn't in the manual.
Grandmother, and that's the deal.
Every round, I've lost more hair. Not necessarily on the top.
Tony, why do you don't dye my hair? I'm going to say it again. Don't dye my hair. Here's a stack of Bibles. Boom.
Yes.
Don't. I dye this and this, but as you can see, I haven't dyed it lately because I don't really care all the time. But my father and my mother had mostly brown hair up to their last days on Earth. I'm just sort of a weird genetic freak that way. I'm very fortunate, but I do have gray hair. You just can't.
Yeah,
you can't see it because it's not HD.
Well, I took the liberty of adding a few in for you today. So.
Well, dude, you got a full head of it. I mean, not everybody's that fortunate, but
I always
science
say Clooney,
can move it around. So
Clooney's gray, isn't he? So it works
Who
for
is?
him. Clooney, George Clooney. He's gray.
Yeah. He's almost as handsome as you, dude.
Yeah, almost close.
Almost.
Let's talk about food. I've heard you talk many times at your philosophy and in your book and all that. But how about simplifying food? I think that there's how many books out there on nutrition and different diets and all this kind of stuff, but simplifying it down to whole foods and things that normal people would eat, not just all this processed food. I get really excited about that because I think we get so overcomplicate things. We're weighing food and we're measuring and all this. Just eat clean ingredients and less of it, and that's drink a lot of water, get sleep, and you'll be good. You're halfway home. Well, am I close?
You're very close. You're almost exact. But the problem.
I read your book, and I'm stealing all that from you.
Well, yeah, you're repeating me. That's fine. Yeah. That's some good intel.
No, but it's honest truth too.
Well, before we actually went live, we were talking about it a little bit, and the one thing I didn't tell you then, which is basically true now, it's our parents' fault. It's our parents' fault.
I wanted to blame them for something.
You want to put blame somewhere? Blame your parents, because these habits are formulated at a very young age. And so if your parents aren't feeding you healthy food, then it's, you know, you're a food addict, right? And so it's very difficult. You and I can sit here and say, okay, fruits, grains, whole vegetables, healthy fats, fruits, blah, 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 and figure out how to make those things taste good and then eat them more often. Everybody knows that, but why can't people do it? It's because they're addicted to the fat, sugar, salt, and chemicals and all that processed crap that their parents fed them. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, my mother was a phenomenal cook, and we got great meals, but I was often asking her based on what I was watching on TV. I wanted my Sugar Smacks, my Cocoa Krispies, and my Fruit Loops, and my Captain Crunch, and all that garbage, and I wanted Fluffernutter. I wanted Wonder Bread because it's wonderful bread. And I want some processed peanut butter and some Fluffernut, and then I would have a bag of Fritos. Fritos is not even a tortilla. Fritos, and I'd have a Devil Dog or a Ding Dong or a Hostess Cupcake or a Twinkie, and I'd have a couple pints of sugar-laden chocolate milk, and then I would get some ice cream sandwiches. And my healthy lunch was a provolone and Swiss cheese sandwich on Wonder Bread. You know, it's like
nice.
that with some lettuce in there. Oh, lettuce.
Iceberg. Right.
You know, but for me, yeah, iceberg. For me, it was an education. Later, I came to California and I realized, it's not just about exercise. There's a diet component too. And a lot of guys, they want to lift. They want to get big, and they eat whatever, tons of beer, tons of pizza, tons of burgers, completely unconscious about the quality of the food going in their mouth. And so they're big and they're bulky and they got big necks and they can't do, here comes my first swear word,
yoga.
Shit. They can't do it. All right? Yeah, I used to be a lame comedian, so we used to use swear words as a means to get a laugh. Sometimes it works.
Hey.
But hey, today maybe not.
Yeah. Insert laughter here, I'll put it in there.
So the idea here is, you're supposed to eat 7 to 8 servings of vegetables a day. Most people get 7 to 8 versions in a week if they're lucky. I was at an event. I'm not going to throw this woman under the bus, but she had never tried cauliflower. She had never had tomato basil soup. She's had fish like twice in her life. It's just frozen stuff in a microwave over and over and over again. And she's a phenomenal. She's a mother. She's a mom, and she's great with the workouts. But yeah, I mean, she'd be even better. And she ate. We believe we counted 12 things in 3 days she's never had in her life, and she's 40 years old. And she's not an anomaly. There's a lot of people in this country who just eat crap all day, every meal, month after month. It's amazing that they're alive, but it is food that caused the healthcare crisis, and it'll be proper food alterations that will solve it, plus the exercise. You don't even need the exercise. You want to be healthy, you eat well. Food is health. Exercise is fitness, right? It's those two things have to do this. And separately, they work pretty well. But together, that's where the money is, and it's really about health and wellness, and being less vulnerable to illness, and being more durable, having a more durable immune system. And you've got to put the right things in your mouth, or you're just the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your life are going to be a nightmare, man. I mean,
I don't want
look
that
at your
to happen.
Parents and grandparents, right? I mean, are they going out with a bang? You know what I mean? Ripping Powell and Jackson Hole and going on mountain biking rides and doing yoga and happy and optimistic and trying new things and being gung-ho and woohoo, I'm 80, yeah, killing it. No, not that many. Most of them are bent over and depressed and sad and pointing fingers, and I used to living in the past and then bitching and moaning and
the highlight of their day is checking their mail.
No way. I'm going to go out like a fireball shot out of a freaking cannon, and it comes down to this morning. I did shoulders and arms, and I dragged my ass in there. I wasn't all fired up about it, and I did it. And then then I had my healthy vegan Indian lunch, and I had a little shake this morning, with blueberries and strawberries. I mean, it's not that hard. And if I went from the sugar, salt, fat, chemical eating, lazy, sad, depressed loser child, and now I'm a different guy. I mean, if I'm not special, and people look at me and go, wow, he's 56, he can do all these things. I was such a pile of poop, dude. It was so sad. But now I eat right and exercise, and I got a little kingdom. It's kind of fun.
But you poured yourself into something every day, always making a little bit of a change every day. I mean, it's work, but no one wants to do the work. But when
most people don't trust. They don't trust that change is possible.
Yeah,
they think that what's happening to them now is what's supposed to happen to them now. They think that who they are and what they are because their parents and grandparents and blah 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 handed down all their crap. That's just their luck. You know, I mean, you've got to open up yourself to learning new things, culturally, physically, nutritionally, all of it. You know, I mean, I always say, just abandon the stuff that's not working. You know, I mean, if you're repeating the same thing over and over again with expecting a different result, I don't know, that was Einstein's thing. People say, I don't know who came up with that first, but it's just, you know, it's just common sense. But trying new things, getting outside of your comfort zone, that's scary. What if it doesn't turn out well? What if I look bad? What would people say about me? You know, so what? So what? And so what? And who cares? And so what? And what?
And another so what?
Why do you care about other people's? The minute I stopped caring about what people thought of me, and you're like, oh, Tony, what happened to your big arms? You look kind of trim. I train based on what's important to me now. I don't exercise purely because I want large arms. I mean, it doesn't serve me as an athlete. You want to train like an athlete, or you want to train like a bonehead because you care so much of what people say about the size of your arms. I mean, it just makes me nuts. And I got friends of mine who are doing this. You know, they're doing, but you know, I mean, they don't lift up their shirt because they got the big arm, but they don't have the six pack anymore. All right, so whatever. Just because you're bigger doesn't mean you're doing a whole lot for your health. Right. And just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're doing a whole lot for your health. You know, it's about feeling good in your own flesh, regardless of what age you are. That's it. That's the bottom line. Wake up today, feel good, go to bed, feel good, repeat. You're going to have down times. You're going to get sick. Yeah, all these things happen. But you want to look back at your life and go, yeah, boom, that's what I'm doing. That's who I was. This is where I'm going. Life is good.
Yeah, the thing is, it's just a simple. That's like the best way to like summarize the whole life for me. Because how many times do I run into someone, even if they're 30, and a lot of times I see in their eyes they're just dead in there, and they're not running around saying I'm living life, and they're pointing, and you're 25 years older than 30, and you're living life. You're out there tackling the world. But it's the stories that we hear that we can't. That's not possible. It's very possible. People are doing it.
Well, look.
There's not as many.
Look at this conversation between you and I. You know, this is like reading the book or getting a trainer or going to a seminar. I mean, that's why there's value in this. You sit here and you watch this, and then when it's over, you go, there's some information there, and maybe I should I should have some vegetables in the morning as opposed to a pancake. I might as well put a freaking candle in it because a pancake's the same thing as cake.
Jim Gaffigan.
Pancake. It's cake with the pan in front of it. So why not put a candle in it and blow it out? Because if you keep eating like that, you'll have a whole lot less birthdays. That's for damn sure, right? So you either make a choice or you don't. And if you watch this and you go back to where you were, it's like, why do you bother? You know what I mean? I mean, just go buy a shovel and get your lot. You know what I mean? And get ready to go away. It doesn't have to be like that, you know. And none of this stuff is rocket science. It's just making some small adjustments and knowing that your parents fed you crap and getting over it, you know, and knowing that your gym teacher was a bonehead and he didn't know how to help you get better. But I'm here, and there's others out there that can help you do it too.
No, I heard a quote. I think if I don't butcher this, but I think it was, we go through our whole life so we don't die, and then we die not living our life, or something like that. We're just always scared of that we're going to make the wrong turn, and we're not going to enjoy things how we're supposed to, and we're not really living. But yet we come to the end, and we look back and like, what did I really do? I mean, I was scared of talking to that person, or going to that, you know, on that little trip, or whatever it was, or going skiing. I mean, yeah, those are the things that I always think about. Is I don't want to be that person that's scared of everything. I'm going to tackle life.
Yeah, you don't want to have those regrets on your deathbed, man. There's no way. You know, nobody's laying on their deathbed going, "Geez, I should have worked more." You know,
I should have bought that red car, right?
Just ain't happening, and that happens a lot. You get caught up in the race, and it's all about the money and the car and the house and stuff, and you know, and showing it to your pals. And look at me, I've done well. But you know, I've trained a lot of very, very wealthy people, and And some of them are truly happy and they love their success, and most of them are miserable. Like the more stuff they get and the more responsibility they have and the more power and money and prestige, you know, fame is so freaking lame. I may put that in a t-shirt. It is. It has nothing to do with your happiness.
Right.
It usually makes things more complicated for people. And so does a lot of, you know, I mean, look at Washington, what's going on over there. I mean, oh my God, those people, what's happening? You know what I mean? It's all that, you know, I want TV time, I want my face time, I got an opinion, but people they're not real, they're not authentic, they're not selfless. You know, I mean, I look at somebody who's running a non-profit charity and I go, okay, that's somebody with their head on straight, right? Like my buddy Scott Pfeiffer with the Go campaign. You know, he's helping orphans around the world have a place to sleep and a place to learn, a place to live. And he's a happy dude, you know what I mean? Because it ain't about him.
Yeah.
It's about helping other people. That's why my gig's so much fun. Because, you know, I mean, I have my moments where I like to ski and take care of myself and go hang out with Shauna. But, you know, I mean, the event in Jackson Hole, it was small turnout. The snow wasn't great. So we broke even. So what do you do? Cancel it? We thought about it, but people said, hey, look, I'm coming from Chicago. I mean, and I'm like, all right, boom, we're in. You know what I mean? And so that's where the fun is. I mean, that's like what you're doing, right? You did several rounds. You've got this great, you know, channel where you're talking to people and you want to share what you know. And, you know, this is not really about us. It's about what we know and how we can help people. And you know, that if more people can do that, well, then there's going to be more happy people in the world. Have
you heard of the movie I Am that's out? I think it was recorded a few years ago, but the director from like Dumb and Dumber and some of the other movies that he made Jim Carrey famous for some of. He went overnight success, typical, where he went from a small home to, I think it was Pet Detective or Dumb and Dumber, one of those that was his big movie, and he bought all these huge houses and all this. Everything was success and things, but then he was in this bike accident, and he had to recover from that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about him. Yeah,
but he started to look at his life in a different perspective, and he was never really happy with the empty homes. So the whole movie is about what's wrong with the world and how do we solve it. And he kind of walks through that. It's pretty interesting. You'd like it since you're...
Check that out. I Am.
I Am.
Is it a documentary? Is it a doc?
Yeah, and it's on Netflix. I just watched it recently, so that's your movie to watch.
That's my assignment.
Report back in the morning. But I know you have somewhat limited time, but one little thing I wanted to kind of roll with at the end here is... One thing that's worked with P90X is humor, and people love your humor or they hate it.
Or they mute me.
Or they mute you. And I have a little bit of both. I've listened to it in a weird kind of way where I still think it's funny, but yet I've jammed out to tunes as well. 7 rounds. Pfeiffer Scissors. I would
assume the pterodactyl.
Yeah. It's like,
potato soup. That could get old after a while.
But... you're really natural when you just jump on camera. From all the directors and the producers, they always talk about how it's really one take and you just kind of go with it. How much do you think that has really played into people sticking with P90X and some of the other programs? Is that you make it more entertaining versus what was out there is doing push-ups and sit-ups and then okay, we'll go home. That's boring to me.
You know, there's a lot of variables for why my programs work. Obviously, variety is certainly one of them. You know, forcing people to work on their weaknesses along with their strengths. That's the reason why they're getting results. It's all about results, right? They all want to see some kind of, you know, change. They want to have more energy. They want to look better. You know, the ego is never, you know, far from the surface. So, but it is certainly variety, and of course the modifications, showing people steps along the way so that they can get from point A to point Z. And then, you know, the little icing, the cherry on top of the cake is the delivery system, right? You know, I have what is called an artistic form of rhetoric. Ooh. And that is my persona on camera while talking about plyometrics and pull-ups and squats and lunges and sit-ups, right? So if you think about what those things are separately without a decent delivery system, they are awful, and they are miserable, and they are painful, and they are... ego crushing, all right? But if you've got variety and you've got some modifications and you've got a guy who says, hey, let's have some fun throughout the process, then there's a greater likelihood that you're going to come back again and again and again. And, you know, if you look at anyone who's popular, you know, regardless if you agree with them, I mean, it's not like, you know, not everyone loves Jimmy Fallon, but most people do. There's just something very amiable about the guy. You know, he's just he's just funny, and he looks like he's authentic. He looks like he's actually enjoying himself. You know, I mean, that's a hard gig every night, but he's just, man, he just commits. Where other people who are in his similar position don't have the same sort of general relaxed vibe and fun vibe that he has. And other people, like I look at Stephen Colbert, and you know, he's just completely outrageous and having a blast, and he just, you know, whatever. So people become popular not because they're just disseminating information for the sake of disseminating information. They're disseminating in a fun, playful, silly, authentic way. And so, you know, as you can tell from this interview, I'm not a whole lot different here than I am. Maybe a touch more serious at times because we want to be able to answer these questions. But, and same thing with the workouts. You know, there's a little bit of, you know, you're part psychiatrist, you're part drill sergeant, and, you know, you're part
babysitter.
What?
Babysitter.
Thank you. You know me better than I do. Yeah, it really is sort of that interesting mix, and the humor is just one more way to do it. And I wouldn't know how to do it any other way. Like the workout with Bobby and I this morning, we were probably laughing as much as we were lifting. You know what I mean? Because to take this stuff so seriously, and that's the reason why other folks aren't as successful. Maybe they got good PR, maybe they got good production, maybe all those things are happening, maybe they got good media buys, all those types of things. But for me, I just rely on who I am, and hopefully that resonates with more people than not.
Well, when you can find what you're passionate for and you can make money doing it, that's the beautiful thing there. Yeah.
You know, people come up to me and say, you know, how do I, you know, do you mind me asking how you got where you got, and what can I do?
A lot of hard work.
And I say, learn how to read a teleprompter, take an acting class, take a voiceover class, and take an improv class. All my training comes from acting training. And it didn't work to be an actor. But then this is a much better gig anyway. You know, yes. I mean, it's much more consistent, where an actor is kind of like, I'm working, I'm broke, and I'm sad, and I'm, you know what I mean? They say that the worst two things for an actor is when they're not working and when they're working. Because they're psycho both times, you know? And for me, you know, I mean, obviously what I do isn't always easy. Sometimes it's hard on other days. But I like the process of developing something and putting moves in a sequence so that you don't get hurt. You know what I mean? And all that, and doing the research behind that, and going through the test groups, and then you're shooting it, and then you make it, and then it's out in the world. I mean, it's absolutely the neatest process imaginable. I'd love to do a film. I'd love to be an actor in a film. That'd be kind of fun. You know.
Weren't you? I was talking to some friends just the other day, and they said you were like an extra in Last American Hero or whatever it was. I think you were like in a cop uniform, maybe waving to someone.
Last Action Hero.
Yes.
You'll see me like, oh, there he is. And also in the 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas. There's a couple, but I've got prosthetics on. You can't even see it's me. You know, I got like giant cheeks and a crazy. I look like a Neanderthal. You know. But I get shot in the eye with an arrow, and I eat some human flesh. It was really turkey jerky, but it was supposed to be human flesh.
Ooh, the secret's
and,
out.
You know, whatever, and a few commercials here and there, and some modeling jobs. But it was not, you know. And the stand-up comedy was fun when you were getting laughs, but boy, it was brutal when you weren't. And that level of inconsistency just wasn't working for me. But this is consistently fun, man. It's, you know, and the lifestyle I have, and the ski trips I can go on, and the play, and, you know, and the 44 military bases I've been to and around the world. There's a base just south here of L.A. They want me to get in a tank and shoot a machine gun and whatever. I mean,
how about getting in a jet again? I love that story. That was hilarious.
I've been in an F-15C and an F-16 and just threw up all inside.
Vomited like 21 times, was it?
Seven in the F-15C and 3 in the F-16 Thunderbird. But I would have probably thrown up more in the Thunderbird. It's just that I said,
more
okay,
G-forces.
An 8-point turn. And I went, no, we flew upside down. We broke, you know, we went 8 Gs and did all that crap. And it's just, you're in the back seat. You know, it's like a roller coaster on fire in a hurricane. Okay.
None of that sounds,
you know, and
sounds
if that sounds like a good time to
no.
Right on. But for me, I got a fragile stomach just walking up a set of stairs, man. So you know, as much as they all think I'm a badass because I can do ab ripper and 4 pull-ups and stuff, so they think I can handle everything. But when you don't control the stick and you're just in a tin can back there flopping around. Oh my God, it's brutal, man. It's so brutal. And they have months and months and years of training of acclimating to those G's. And when we took off at Nellis Air Force Base out of Vegas, the jet went straight up. So we went from an airplane to a rocket, you know, and Vegas went like this, boo, you know, like wow. But these make for great stories because, you know, I mean, look, I did this thing, and here's a story about me throwing up in bags. We even got it on video. It's one of the YouTube videos. You can go to Tony Horton Fitness on YouTube and look for the Tony throwing up in a bag in a jet.
I got to watch that at least 6 times.
Yeah.
But it's a great example how you go outside your comfort zone. It makes a great story. And during that short time period, it probably wasn't the most enjoyable. But it was an experience.
No, but, you know, you just sometimes, like, for example, so that was in Okinawa, the first one, and the second one was in Vegas, and now the Blue Angels want to take me up. So third time's a charm. Maybe I'll only throw up once. You know what I mean?
Bring a case of vomit bags.
We'll just fly like 200 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Nice and flat.
Yeah, I don't even go on roller coasters.
Yeah, I don't mind roller coasters. Roller coasters are fun, but this is like a roller coaster is 1.3 Gs when you're doing that loop-de-loop underneath, right? 3 Gs. 3 Gs, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 Gs. It's, you know, your whole face is like, oh, why am I here? You know, then, you look like a Shar-Pei when you get out of the darn thing. You know. Anyway,
good times. So what's next? I mean, we've done pull-ups, we've done push-ups with all the P90X series. I know there's new things coming up always, but you probably can't really say too much. But can you reinvent the push-up again?
No, man. Well, you know, we got push-ups, plyo push-ups, one-arm push-ups,
no arm push-ups,
push-up, fly wing. You know, I mean, there's a million ways to push yourself up. You know, spinning plyometric push-ups to next 3. There's a lot of different things you can do. There is another project. It's being discussed now. We're in early development.
Nice.
You know, we'd like to be a little bit hush-hush about it so that when it releases, people go, okay, here's that thing, you know. But I can tell you this. There's another one coming. Nice. And it'll be coming out in 2016. And this is going to be, it's not going to be, you know, X, X2, X3. It's not going to be sort of a 4. It's not going to be a 4 at all. It's going to be a brand new thing.
Nice.
And but it'll still have me and a slightly different approach. And it's going to be intense.
Nice. So here's the one question for you as we roll out here. My daughters are in gymnastics. I have 2 daughters, 13 and 10. Is this weird when I'm watching them that I want to go out and I want to get on the parallel bars and I want to start working out? That's probably not really common, but I see your backyard gym and you have the ropes and all the parallel bars and stuff, and it's great exercise and strength training, gymnastics.
Oh, I tell you, man, if you lived in a gymnastics gym and a track, you know, like a university track, you'd be in the best shape of any human being on earth, you know, I think.
Throw in a pool,
there's different
maybe,
kinds of fitness, you know, but I like the track because of the speed work.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a track athlete and you look at a gymnast and you look at their bodies, and those bodies are off the chain. I mean, they're amazing. It's not like they're not weightlifters. They're weightlifting a little bit, but they're not exclusively weightlifting. They're training their bodies to perform, you know, at the very highest level, using tons and tons of muscle recruitment, meaning they're not just doing bicep curls and crunches, but they're using their entire body all at once, typically doing whatever they're asking their body to do. And that, to me, is ultimately the fittest you can be. Now, if you're a hiker or a biker, you know, and that's something you love, then that's a completely different approach to exercise. But, you know, I mean, I had the outdoor gym because I love the handstands, and I love the parallel bars, and I love the fact that that stuff is so hard, you know what I mean? And 8 reps of anything out there will just destroy you. You know, doing the pegboard and climbing the ropes and all those types of things. I mean, that's real world, real fitness, and going to the track and running 100s, 200s, 400s. It's just so intense and so. But you know, for me, the future of fitness is not exclusively, which is where a lot of people live, resistance training and cardio. Right? Oh, it's resistance and cardio. Resistance. Everybody's stuck there, and they might work their abs, sort of work their stomach. But the future really is speed work like MMX, right? You know, boom, 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 moving quickly. Old people move in slow motion. And so I'm 56. Yeah. If you don't train speed, you lose speed. Same thing with balance. It's probably the least sexy part of fitness and ignored by 99.9% of all trainers around the world. You know what I mean? But it's balance wakes up all that proprioceptive stuff going on inside the body. Without it, it's dead. With it, it comes alive, and it's not an easy process. I think everybody who's listening should go out and buy a slack line and take 3 weeks to figure out how to stand on the thing for 5 seconds. It's the single most frustrating learning tool ever. Because I can't, the word I can't comes out of your mouth like 15,000 times before you can say I can. And so, you know, are you willing to be able to be lame at it forever and not be able to do it at all? But balance is huge. And then you know, Pilates and yoga with flexibility, you know, range of motion is everything, because without it, you're going to get hurt. I don't care how fit you are. Like these guys who are lifting and they're getting older, and they're lifting and they're lifting and they're getting older, but they're not doing their flexibility work. Up there goes the shoulder. Up there goes the bicep. Up there goes their back. Up there goes their knees, because they weren't doing their yoga, man. I mean, you know, the fountain of youth is those 3 things. And so if you ignore them and you don't add them into your resistance work and your cardio work, well then, you know, oh, see, I'm meant to get older. I'm meant to get hurt. The body can only do so much. Well, because you were training it in a limited way. You got to open up your repertoire, man. That's where it is. And so, you know, today was shoulders and arms. It's good old-fashioned working this, working these. But tomorrow will be, you know, more interval work, more speed work, because I understand the importance of that.
I saw a picture, I think, of you on the slack line that you were mentioning, and you're holding with your arms and your legs are at 45-degree angle, I think. Mm-hmm. That's my next goal now.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, anyone can do the easy stuff.
A second and a half.
Well, but
it wasn't like I was up there for half an hour.
The other one was
ready, take it, click. You know?
Hurry up, take it. Speed click is the King of Queens, I think, move you had or a year ago.
Keith of Queens.
Yeah. Keith of Queens is you're holding. You go to the L and then you pull your legs back into a 45.
Yeah,
I was working towards that. I was getting close, but that kickback is what kills me.
Yeah, man, it's all engagement. You know, people say engage your core. Like, you know, you can say that to 100 people, and 12 will know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, really, ultimately, what needs to be done, you know? And then there's people who are squeezing so tight they can't even do a rep because they're gassed from the isometric squeeze. Other ones, you know, they tighten up their stomach, but they're not tilting the pelvis or squeezing their butt cheeks together. You know what I mean? So some people are engaging, you know, 20%. Some are engaging, you know, 114%, which is too much. And it's just knowing how much and when throughout the course of a particular exercise. Like when I ski and I'm focused on my abs and my back when I make my turns, so I let my air out. And that means that everything locks up, and then I just kind of breathe normally. Like right now, my stomach is flexed, but you can't tell. So now I've relaxed it, right? Can you tell the difference between relaxed and engaged? I can go back and forth, but most people will engage like this, and I can't do it. I don't get it, right? And other people will just engage, you know, their ass cheeks and forget their stomach. But when I engage, I can ski better. Like my there's more snap in my feet, in the way my skis go down the hill. And then when I forget about it, I go, I kind of get back a little bit, and I get in more trouble. And it's just practice, man. It's miles. I mean, P90X is 90 days because it takes 3 months for people to make dramatic change. You know, there's other programs that are shorter that still gives you results because you're probably starving yourself. But, you know, the idea here is to train so that you learn what you need to learn so you do it forever.
Lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, people just try to do short term, and then they're like, well, I'm done. I'm at the wedding now, so I look good in the wedding dress, and that's over with.
The wedding dress, I look good in front of my friends at the wedding, and then the wedding's over, and then you've had like 14 cocktails, and you wake up the next day and eat a cheeseburger and go, okay, what do I do now? You know, it's not easy, man. That's why we have these conversations. That's why there's so many books. That's why there's so many DVDs. And you're going to help a few people along the way, and they're going to have an influence on their friends and family. But you know, the spike of obesity and poor health and everything else is starting to level off and go down. And more people now, it's sort of everywhere, where even 5 years ago, it was a bit of an anomaly, right? And people who've been ignoring it and like whatever, but they're getting older and they're getting in trouble. And so now they're going, okay, maybe I got to do something. So Beachbody, my programs, others like it are beginning to make a difference, and in conversations like ours too.
Yeah, it's changed everything for me to creating this podcast and everything else that's going on with my life. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Good stuff.
So you're at, is it TonyHortonLife.com is your main website? Or
Tony Horton Life, it used to be Tony Horton's World. So if you go to Tony Horton's World and Tony Horton Life, it'll take you to the same place. My website right now is sort of in limbo because we're doing a new one. It's all about fonts and graphics and photos and video and ease of use and everything else. And it's taken a bit of a process. But we're getting there. It's getting there. And so, but you can still go there and see where I'm headed and what I'm doing. I'm heading down to Mexico, down to Cabo, doing an event in Cabo. Then I go to Dallas. We're straight from Cabo to Dallas, and from Dallas I go to Ohio State. So I'm going to be gone for 10 days starting next week. And all that information is there. I think all 3 events are sold out. So, but, keep an eye on me that way. Tony Horton Life. And then, of course, Tony Horton Fitness on YouTube.
Yes.
We're up to 120,000 subscribers. It's kind of continuing to grow at a very fast pace. People really like the content and the silliness, and it's free. All you do is you hit the red bar, subscribe, and you get the stuff. For free. And you almost feel like you're cheating. And that's really fun to do. And of course, the big picture of the book, selling nicely. The word of mouth has been really good. The reviews on it are fantastic. So. If you don't have it yet, you of course do. You can show that if you want. Greg.
No, it's actually,
there I am.
I'm going to be giving some of these away too because it really it's parallel to me. Yeah, which one's Tony? There's a clean shaven Tony and a downhill skiing mountain man, but very cool. No, I love YouTube as well, but you're doing really a lot of unique things with it, and you did a miming one and couples workouts, things like that. Valentine's workout, I think it was, and things like that. Cool stuff. I
get silly there too. I mean, I get even sillier there. I even use taint in a sentence, which I'm surprised that didn't get bleeped out. I think I should have. But whatever. Sometimes I kind of cross. I remember I've got a call from corporate. Really, dude, taint? Somebody got in trouble because they let it go. But whatever. It's the YouTube, the kids. They're so irreverent and out of control.
Our times are changing, those young kids, right?
I know, cool. I know. Like in the book, we talk about new haters and blockers.
Yes.
I'm up in Mammoth, and I'm seeing people still with skis from the 1970s. And, maybe they can't afford new gear, but you can get a decent pair of skis on sale at 3 years old for a couple $100. You know what I mean? You don't need to be skiing. They just cling on to this stuff that was the thing in their heyday. And, does that mean you got to run out and buy a new iPhone every time it comes out? No. But, there are these really smart people that are making stuff better. And when they make stuff better, whether it be a golf club head or a tennis racket or a pair of skis or a way to communicate, you might want to jump on board, or you're going to be just that curmudgeon-y old fart that's stuck to the, old-fashioned crap that doesn't work anymore. You know what I mean? You can pull the plastic stuff off your couch because you're 80 now. It's not like you're going to preserve it till you're 180.
It's just
it's just weird. I mean, people do, and I love people just hold on to stuff they don't need. Like I'm looking around my house, and I told Sean, I said, this weekend, that's it. We are clearing crap out of here. We just hold on to the stuff. And when you hold on to old things and old thoughts and old ways, it's hard to take in new, better forms of living. And so if it's material things or mental things or forms of training, every time you open up to something different, it's a fun journey. And if you're not attached to the outcome and you're not a perfectionist, then it's going to be a pretty rocking experience. It'll keep you young. And that's why I do what I do. I continue to read. I continue to try new forms of fitness. I continue to try to, relax more and just enjoy the downtime and not feel like I got to be working all the time. And like I said before, on your deathbed, I should work more. No, man, you need to really have some fun and take advantage of your fitness and your health and wellness and schedule a couple of, weekends or short vacations a year. Get out to Jackson Hole or get up to Mammoth or go to Yosemite or, whatever. You don't have to go to Disneyland or World every time. Go climb a little hill and look out over and peer out at the world and think, man, life is pretty cool if you're overweight, you're overwhelmed, and so typically you're in survival mode and you can't go out and enjoy the world. So you got to start with the diet and the fitness first to really get there.
Do crazy things that don't kill you. I like that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Go check out Tony at his YouTube channel. I guess I'll see you in Cancun. I'm going to be there with the Beachbody trip in April. Like 5 weeks. So I'm on my 5-week push hybrid schedule I'm doing. So Elite Fitness, another notch right here. I always have a new goal, but thank you, Tony, so much. Once again, I really appreciate what you're doing out there, and I'm going to continue what I'm doing, following the path that you're paving down the mountain. I just haven't skied enough, so that's on the list as well. But thank you for your time.
Put that in your box, man. I thank you very much, Greg. I like what you do, and it's been fun being on your
show.
Your show.
There we go. And we're going to be on YouTube as well, so check it out. thelifeofnow.com/Tony Horton. All the good stuff.
Thank you, man.